AMD. Holy smokers, folks. That ain't no dang jokers. AMD stock exploding to the upside here today, well over 25%. That stock is now up over 150% from where it was back in the springtime. Unbelievable move in regards to AMD. This is an absolute money printer of a stock. Now, let me be very crystal clear. AMD's entire future has been changed forever. And I need to take you through what this means for AMD, for their financials, for their stock price, everything like that. A massive day. Congratulations to every single person that's watching this that's an AMD shareholder. And if you're not an AMD shareholder yet, I got some things to show you and talk about here today in this video, okay? But look at this. AMD here today in the public account up $112,000 on the stock here today. Unbelievable move there. Additionally, this is in one of my private portfolios up $88,000 on AMD. I've been loading AMD stock this entire year, essentially, especially back in the springtime when all that drama was going on. Additionally, do you want to know what the biggest position for me is in the Patreon portfolio? Guess what it is? AMD. Oh my gosh, okay. Yes, AMD is a very, very important stock to me. So we're going to go through what is going on here with AMD. Why is this such a big deal? Like, why are people willing to just, bid this stock up 25+% here today? Okay, I'm going to take you through exactly what's going on here, why this is occurring, okay? I'm also going to share with you a message I gave to my private stock group that's very important to understand where AMD is going in the future here in regards to big tech companies and things like that, okay? Additionally, I have to move my bull case in my base case for AMD. I'm going to do it live in this video. I'm going to adjust my numbers upwards for AMD when it comes to the bull case and base case based upon this deal here today, and I'll share with you exactly what my new numbers are moving to here. And let's just say it's pleasantly surprising, okay? Additionally, since we're on the reaction channel, I want to go ahead and react to two videos here. One is obviously Lisa Su went on CNBC, spoke about the deal here today, so looking forward to getting in that one. And then I want to react to this one. Is AI mania a bubble? Let's listen to what the Wall Streeters have to say, and I'll give my opinions and perspectives. One thing and one thing only I need from you guys, if you could please just hit that thumbs up button for me. If you already did that, you are the best. Thank you for that. If you haven't done so, please just hit the like button. I hope you guys enjoy all these videos I put out for you, trying to teach you guys all this stuff about the market and where opportunities are and stuff. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you appreciate it. And the way you can show me you appreciate it is just smash that thumbs up button, okay? Additionally, if you want to see more of my videos in the future, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're subscribed to the channel, there's a higher likelihood YouTube will show my videos in the future. If you're not subscribed, there's less of a probability, okay? So yeah, all that good stuff, all right? So listen. AMD, here's the deal, okay? Obviously, the big deal came out here today in regards to OpenAI. Now, a lot of people don't understand what's actually going on here, what it means for AMD's financial future, what it means for AMD's position in the market, and what it means for AMD's stock price moving forward. I need to break this all down as simple as possible, right? AMD and OpenAI today announced 6 gigawatt agreement to power OpenAI's next generation of AI infrastructure across multiple generations. That's the first key there, across multiple generations of AMD Instinct GPUs. This is not just some one-off deal. We're talking about this is going to be over multiple generations of AMD chips in the future here. The first 1 gigawatt deployment of AMD Instinct MI450 GPUs is set to begin in the second half of 2026. Now, what have I told you guys in regards to 350 series and above? The 350 series, like that was a huge step where AMD's finally they're starting to really position themselves to get into this fight with NVIDIA and actually be a serious competitor. The 450 series is we're here. We're ready to take you head on, right? And so it's a massive moment for AMD, and it's a massive moment, honestly, for the whole chip space, because if you look, NVIDIA's had no competitors for the last several years, right? It's if you want these super high-end GPUs, you have one company to go to, and that was NVIDIA. That has now all changed, folks. And this has changed everything forever for the future of both these companies, right? AMD's strong leadership in high-performance computing and OpenAI's pioneer in research in advancements in generative AI places the two companies at the forefront of this important and pivotal time for AI. Under this definitive agreement, OpenAI will work with AMD as a core strategic compute partner to drive large-scale deployments of AMD technology, starting with the AMD Instinct MI450 series and rack-scale AI solutions. That was a big acquisition they did about a year, in the past year or two, that's really positioned themselves for this 2026 and beyond future, right? Like you've had all the breadcrumbs to put all this story together for a while, right? And the story's come together. And extending to future generations. By sharing technical expertise to optimize their product roadmap, AMD and OpenAI are deepening their multi-generational hardware and software collaboration that will begin that began with the MI300X and continue with the MI350X series. The MI350 is the one that just scaled like in the past couple months here. We can say the past 2 or 3 months that you're going to actually start to see in this upcoming quarter's numbers, and you'll see that in the guidance as well. Okay, so do keep in mind, like AMD's numbers in the very short term, as in this quarter they're about to report next, and then the next few quarters are still going to be really exciting growth rates. But like I told you guys a million times, we knocked the doors off in 2026 when the 400 series hits. This partnership creates a true win-win for both companies, enabling very large-scale AI deployments and advancing the entire ecosystem. As part of the agreement to further align strategic interest, now this is where it starts to matter significantly. Like this is why it matters so much for the financials of AMD, okay, and the positioning of AMD. But this next part is what matters so much for the stock price, okay? Listen to this. AMD has issued OpenAI a warrant for up to 160 million shares of AMD stock, structured to vest as strategic milestones are achieved. The first tranche vests with the initial 1 gigawatt deployment, with additional tranches vesting as purchases scale up to 6 gigawatts. Vesting is further tied to AMD achieving certain share price targets and OpenAI achieving the technical and commercial milestones required to enable AMD's deployments at scale. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, okay? How do I break this down as simple as possible, okay? Okay, the first thing I would say is now OpenAI is extremely incentivized to buy as many AMD chips over the next several years as possible. Because if AMD's stock price goes to certain levels, then OpenAI is going to basically unlock massive quantities of AMD shares that then they can hold those shares or they can sell them off over time, whatever they want to do, right? So it is definitely in the best interest for OpenAI that AMD stock price goes up significantly over the next few years. Now, additionally, if you believe OpenAI is really the next, trillion-dollar or multi-trillion-dollar company, right, then they should be able to continue to raise capital for years and years to go in the future, which then would mean all the shares they get from AMD, if AMD hits certain stock prices, right, OpenAI would then be in a position where they could be easily a long-term investor in AMD, and it's not like they're going to get these shares and just sell them off right away. Now, if OpenAI is in a tough financial situation at that particular time, there's a possibility they could get shares, right, and then sell them right off. But I would say if OpenAI is investing aggressively in these AMD chips, right, then that means AMD stock price is probably doing tremendous, which means the whole AI movement is still doing phenomenal at that time. So I don't think OpenAI would be in a situation where they'd like to just ditch those shares anytime soon, right? So this is a deal that's structured very differently than the NVIDIA deal, where NVIDIA was more of an investment in, right? This is more like OpenAI wants AMD stock to do very well over the next few years. So if anything, OpenAI is going to want to buy as many chips as possible from AMD, right? So then AMD's numbers are as high as possible. And this unlocks, obviously massive financial ownership and financial win for OpenAI. Where then you could say, let's say OpenAI spends tens of billions of dollars, which is very doable just them. It's very possible OpenAI spends tens of billions of dollars with AMD over the next 4, 5, 6 years, right? It's very possible. If AMD stock price explodes over the next few years, OpenAI could end up getting back a lot of that, because AMD's stock price and market cap would go up so much. So it's actually kind of brilliant. I got to say, it's brilliant from both sides. Like, both sides, huge W here. Like, there's no one takes an L here. AMD, this is genius on their part. Like, OpenAI is the company that's going to spend the most likely on these chips for the next, at least 5 years, right? Who knows, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, but at least the next 5 years, we know OpenAI is going to spend likely the most money of everybody, right? And they got that Microsoft backing. So you want to be in with those guys. And so the fact that now OpenAI has a financial interest, a significant financial interest at that, with AMD, listen, if you want to know where AMD stock could go, like, I think OpenAI would love it if AMD stock was a $500 stock or a $1,000 stock a few years from now, would they not? How do they get there? Explode AMD's revenues, right? Now remember, OpenAI is just one customer of AMD, and that's going to get into a bigger part that we'll speak about in just a moment, but this is significant. Also remember this, might even be, no, I'll cover that in just a moment because I don't want to get too off subject. Well, it's all on the same subject, but it's a little unrelated. I want to finish going through this. Then I'll get to the next major point here, okay? We are thrilled to partner with OpenAI to deliver AI compute at massive scale, says Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD. This partnership brings the best of AMD and OpenAI together to create a true win-win, enabling the world's most ambitious AI build-out and advancing the entire AI ecosystem. This partnership is a major step in building the compute capacity needed to realize AMD's full potential, says Sam Altman, the big dog at OpenAI. AMD's leadership in high-performance chips will enable us to accelerate progress and bring the benefits of advanced AI to everyone faster. Building the future of AI requires deep collaboration across every layer of the stack, says one of the other co-founders of OpenAI. Working alongside AMD will allow us to scale and deliver AI tools that benefit people everywhere. Our partnership with OpenAI is expected to deliver tens of billions of dollars in revenue for AMD while accelerating OpenAI's AI infrastructure build out, says the executive vice president and CFO and treasurer of AMD. Holy smokes, I got a lot of roles there, right? This agreement creates significant strategic alignment and shareholder value for both AMD and OpenAI and is expected to be highly accretive to AMD's non-GAAP earnings per share. Do you think? Yeah, I think so. Through this partnership, AMD and OpenAI are building the infrastructure to meet the world's growing AI demands by combining world-class innovation and execution to accelerate the future of high performance in AI computing. Listen, folks, okay, this sentence is huge right here. Huge. Our partnership with OpenAI is expected to deliver tens of billions of dollars in revenue for AMD. That's one customer. We're not talking about all the money Meta is going to spend over the next few years with AMD. We're not talking about all the money Google's going to spend over the next few years with AMD. We're not talking about all the money Microsoft's going to spend with AMD over the next few years, and Amazon, and Tesla, and go down the whole list. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars just from OpenAI over the next few years. Now, the big question is, what is tens of billions of dollars? Tens of billions of dollars is 20 billion. Tens of billions of dollars is also 90 billion. So, the moral of this story is, just based upon what OpenAI will spend over the next few years with AMD, right? AMD's growth rates are going to skyrocket. Now, the next point I need to make here that everybody has to understand on a high level, because this is very important. Who is the leader in AI? Everybody would view OpenAI as a leader of AI, right? There's a lot of companies playing in AI. A lot of people have products and services out there. A lot of people want to do big stuff. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to OpenAI, right? They're the leaders. They got ChatGPT. They're the ones that are the most famous. They're the ones that look like they're making the most money, obviously outside of NVIDIA, right, from all this stuff. So here's the deal. Since they're the leader, and now they say, AMD, we need their chips. They're at such a high level. We need AMD. We need as much AMD as... That's a huge signal for the entire industry. If AMD's chips are good enough for OpenAI to go all in, why are you not going to do it? If the kings of AI are willing to go all in AMD chips, why wouldn't you? So then you get all the players underneath OpenAI, all the smaller players, right, to all say, looks like AMD's got something here, right? Now, additionally, when I say we've had all the breadcrumbs, like all the breadcrumbs have been there, right? Another point I've made is when AMD puts on these big events, right, and they show off their new chipsets, what happens? Well, all these big tech CEOs end up going to the event. They all do presentations and things like that. Why would they do that? Unless AMD was the real deal Holyfield and they've got an exciting product roadmap and they're going to have massive successes in the market. They wouldn't do that. Like, these executives of these big tech companies are kind of busy. Like, they wouldn't just go out of their way to go do a presentation at AMD's conference, right? Unless AMD is a very, very powerful company for these big tech companies in the future, right? Something to keep in mind there. So this is a massive, massive deal, right? Now, additionally, I posted this inside the private stock group. I said, one of the biggest points I made for AMD this year is big tech wants and needs AMDs to win. Why? NVIDIA has way too much pricing power. They have grown too powerful. This power position leads NVIDIA to basically charge any price, and big tech will go along with it. And that's exactly what they've been able to do, right? They've been able to charge, they're like, hey, you want our best chip? $35,000. Get it out your pocket. And they're like, okay, like we got no other option. You want the best of the best, you have one company to go to, and that's NVIDIA, and that's it. It stops and ends there, right? Until now. Not anymore. Finally, big tech has someone to put a lid on the pricing power, and that is AMD. Meta, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Tesla, etc. all want AMD to be very successful in the next few years, right? And that's a point I've been making here on the reaction channel. We'll adjust numbers in just a moment here. On the main channel in regards to AMD, no one wants just NVIDIA to have won this market for the next 10 years. No way. There's too much pricing power. NVIDIA's margins have grown to astronomical levels. All these big tech companies, NVIDIA's a public company. Everybody can see their numbers. Everybody sees the margins NVIDIA's making, which is ridiculous. Everybody sees the net margins. And as I've also said, NVIDIA is whose best friend? NVIDIA is AMD's best friend. And people are like, wait, how? They're competitors, and AMD wants to come eat NVIDIA's lunch over the next few years, blah, blah, blah. No, NVIDIA is their best friend because NVIDIA's gone so ridiculous with their pricing that now AMD looks like the great value. AMD could come in and say, you know what, it's going to be $25,000 for this chip, and companies like, oh, what a steal deal! This is amazing. Only $25,000. Whoa! Oh my gosh! This is amazing. Because AMD is charging something similar for $30,000 or $35,000 or something like that, right? And for a chip that might be $25,000 from NVIDIA, if AMD comes in and charges $15,000, AMD looks like the greatest deal ever, right? So now the market's going to get a whole lot more competitive for NVIDIA moving forward, right? And that does not mean NVIDIA is not going to put up numbers. NVIDIA is still going to put up great numbers in 2026. Great numbers. But they're not going to be great numbers like AMD numbers are great. AMD's growth rates, NVIDIA is going to continue to grow at a bigger absolute number than AMD over the next few years. But NVIDIA's revenue growth rates is not even going to be in the same ballpark, in my opinion, in regards to what AMD is going to put up year after year after the next several years. And remember, a lot of this OpenAI revenue is not going to really start to hit until we're talking about like the back half of 2026, right? So now keep in mind, NVIDIA's numbers are still going to be great over the next year, but in terms of the big numbers, we're going to start to see that like a year from now. And then that doesn't slow down. If anything, that's going to accelerate in 27, 28, right? So there's big numbers coming for a long time for AMD. So I need to update my cases here, right? I loaded up here on 1000xstocks.com. I loaded up my bull case, my base case, and bear case. So we need to make these adjustments. By the way, if you want access to 1000xstocks.com, the entire premium software system, essentially, that will be access to that is inside my private stock group. Now we bundle it all together. And you also get access to my Discord channel. Put that as a pinned comment down there today. Access to all my course curriculums and all that good stuff. You got to be part of either my Patreon or you got to be part of my private stock group, right? If you got $50,000 plus in your portfolio, you're getting more serious about investing, join my private stock group. That's the one you need to be part of, right? We got literally like 1,000 plus people that have 6 figures, 7 figures, or 8 figures in a portfolio. Like you need to be around successful individuals, right? If you got $10,000 to your name, $5,000 portfolio, $2,000, join my Patreon, see exactly what stocks I'm buying and selling each week, exactly how I build out a portfolio. That's where you need to be in regards to that, right? Like there's a reason that Patreon, I think we're up to either the 5th or the 6th most popular Patreon in the whole financial space in the world. And there's a reason, because people love to see me, how I'm building out positions, how I'm running the portfolio, all that good stuff, okay? Alrighty, so my bull case, what are my numbers going to here? Well, I'm taking my bull case up to 40% revenue growth, given this OpenAI deal now at this point in time. That's 40% on average. Now, keep in mind, some years are going to be way over 40%. So there's a potential that 26 or 27 numbers are actually much faster than 40%. Do keep that in mind. But I have been doing 40% on average, right? Now, we're going to take that net income growth up to 50% here for AMD. Now, you got a 40% top line growth on average per year, 50% on the bottom line. We're going to take those P ratios here up to, I would say, we're going to take them up to about those sorts of growth rates. Now, it's chip company. So, people always say, oh, well, it's boom cycle right now, but it might die in the future. Because if this was like a SaaS company, you would be talking about AMD would be trading at like 150 to 200 P ratio with these sorts of growth rates. But given it's a chip company, people are always going to question this, question that. So I would say they'd be willing to pay somewhere between about a 55P and a 75P for a company that's growing 40% top line and 50% bottom line. Yeah, somewhere in there roughly, right? So, and we need to take this guy to a 55 now, right? Woo! Yeah. Oh my gosh. That puts AMD at $1,000 stock in 2029. $1,000 stock. Now, my base case, I think base case now, they're going to do 35% revenue growth now at this point in time. This is now my base case. Seeing now that they're going to be doing tens of billions of dollars over the next few years just from OpenAI, I'm like, the Meta numbers, the Google numbers, the Microsoft numbers, the Amazon numbers, the Tesla numbers, I'm like, oh my gosh. Elon Musk even said some positive things about AMD recently on X. I'm like, that's pretty much, that's in the bag now at this point in time. So I have been doing about 45%. Now you might say, why is net income going to grow at a much faster clip than revenue here? Which is a fair question, right? The reason being is these chips are going to be able to command extremely high dollar amounts. So the margins that basically AMD is going to get over the next few years is going to go up substantially. Now, additionally, I've watched how NVIDIA's kind of built their business last few years. NVIDIA's expense profile is not skyrocketed or something like that, even though the business has skyrocketed. So in my opinion, AMD will be able to keep the expense profile of the business on the lower end, which means essentially the net margins of this company are going to explode higher. So 22% net margins might end up being low, folks, come 2029. Remember where NVIDIA's been posting net margins closer to 50% recently, right? So 22% come 2029, it might end up being low in the end. Just a little food for thought, right? Now, 35% top line, 45% bottom line. Holy smokes, man. I would say anywhere between, we'll go a little conservative here. We'll go 50 to 60 PE here, right? Which is not high for a company growing 35% top line, 45% bottom line. Like a 50 to 60 PE is like kind of sleepy, actually, for a company with those sorts of growth rates, right? If they were growing revenue 3% and bottom line 4%, then you wouldn't command these P's. You'd be at a 20, right? Or 15 or something like that. But these growth rates, yeah, you're going to command way higher than that. It puts a stock $700 to $900. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And that's at a net income margin of only 22%. Oh my gosh. Now my bear case, I'm going to take that up to 20% revenue growth, which this would be a complete failure. Complete failure by AMD. Like they had to mess up everything if this happens. And I have them growing 25% bottom line for my bear case here, which would be, this would be a disaster for AMD. Let me just be very clear about that. And we'll say about a 25 PE here, which, hey, if you're growing top line 20% on average and 25% bottom line, like a 25P is a joke. But we're just going to say, people don't want to pay anything for AMD. They're just like, no, we don't like AMD. We're not going to pay any sort of premium. Then the stock, in my bear case, maybe is, flat or a slight gainer over the next 4 years. So, gosh. Oh, man. AMD. Guys. It's still a great opportunity. Like the bottom line is, yeah, their stock's up huge today, right? And it's still a buy. Now, am I going to personally go buy more AMD shares here today or tomorrow or something like that? The answer is no. Why? I have plenty of money already invested in AMD. I showed you the public account position. I showed you one of my private portfolios. That's just one. I have like 3 or 4 different private portfolios, and I think all of them have AMD loaded up on, right? It's the biggest position for me in the Patreon portfolio. Do I believe AMD stock's probably going to $500? Somewhere between $500 and $1,000 over the next few years? Yes, I do. But I have AMD coming out of my ears, okay? I have so many AMD shares, it's ridiculous. And so I look and I'm like, if I didn't have an AMD position, I would be happy to add AMD today. Happy. But I have so much AMD is coming out of my hair, okay? It's ridiculous. So it's kind of like a Meta situation for me where I have so much money invested in Meta that although I think Meta's going to $1,000 next year, right? And I think it's going to $2,000 before we get to 2030. I still can't buy more Meta shares because I have so much already invested in that stock. And you know me, I never risk the farm, right? That's how I make it through the bear markets. Out to the other side, and we're going to do our thing, right? And I can still kill it in the market, and I can still make more money than I ever dreamt, but I don't have to put myself in such a risky situation where I, went too bullish and then something didn't go right, and then it's like, oh crap, like, I don't know what happens if the 450 series has some major flaw in it, right? That screws everything up and that screws up AMD's like, you never know what could happen. Like maybe that happens, right? And so I have so much AMD, I'm good. With that being said, AMD's still a buy today. It's a buy yesterday. It's a buy tomorrow. It's a buy next week. If it goes to 250 where it's going next, it's still a buy. Based upon the numbers I'm running here, like it's a buy. It's a buy, man. Bottom line, like I don't know what else to say. The stock's a buy. What a beautiful stock. And it will be like that until this CapEx cycle ends for the big tech companies. But like I always said, for Nvidia, it's risky, right? Because Nvidia's already capitalized so much on the marketplace that these companies don't have, after 2026, Meta, Google, OpenAI, et cetera, they don't have tons of room to continue to add to their CapEx budgets after 2026, essentially, right? If they're going to add to CapEx after that, it's going to be very modest amounts, like very small amounts, right? That's an issue for NVIDIA, not an issue for AMD, because AMD is coming in as basically almost like a new player in the market, right? Because they have hardly benefited at all from this AI wave, and they're the ones that's going to be gobbling up market share, right? So NVIDIA's market share, in my opinion, will be peaking at some point in the next 6 months, and then you're going to see AMD start to eat into that market share more and more and more. And it's a risk for NVIDIA because then NVIDIA's growth rates are going to be brutally tough to show any sort of positive real growth in 27, 28, and AMD is just going to be smoking. And so that's why I told you guys, we're going to have a situation here where, AMD was the laughed at stock, right? Everybody just wanted to be in NVIDIA, and you're getting a flip over the next 12 months. Not over the next 3 years, over the next 12 months it's going to happen. Where people are going to start to look at NVIDIA's growth rates and kind of thinking about where NVIDIA's growth rates are going and go, okay, like we're starting to see major decelerations, and they're going to see AMD's accelerating growth, and they're going to say, switch NVIDIA into AMD. And that's obviously, it's already something that's happening, but it's going to happen at a much greater extent as those numbers start to pour in over the next year.
Brockman, congratulations to both. Lisa, I'd like to start with you, okay?
Yeah, good morning. Great to see you guys.
Great to see you. Now, Lisa, this is a huge coup because I think a lot of people felt that you were nowhere near NVIDIA in terms of being able to power, in terms of compute. Why don't you tell us?
That's just ridiculous, man. Like the fact that people... They should have looked into the tech a little bit. I think that would have been valuable.
Why you think what you've done in the last 2 years that make people realize that, wait a second, this is not a one-horse game?
Well, first of all, Jim, it's great to be here with this morning. It's a big day for AMD. It's a big day for our relationship with OpenAI. And frankly, I think it's an important day for the AI industry, right? What we're seeing is there's just a massive demand for more compute. I mean, there's so many applications for AI. There's so many places where we'd like to see it used. And, compute is the foundation of that. So we're super excited to announce this deal with OpenAI. I think it has been, something that we've been working on for a long time. And I think it says a lot about, sort of the importance of having, the right compute technology to really power this next wave of AI. So very, very exciting. It's a huge deal. 6 gigawatts is a massive deployment at scale. And, we love working with OpenAI, truly a leader in this great industry.
Okay, so Greg, I've not been able to meet you, and I feel remiss. Obviously, you're one of the most important people in this world of AI. I wanted to ask you. A lot of people feel that there was a deal that you made with NVIDIA, and was something I was loathsome. People were saying it was circular. I thought that was just blasphemy, because I felt that they really were going to go to whoever else had great power. You went to Lisa and AMD. Why? What attracted you? What was in the chips that you felt made it so you didn't just need NVIDIA?
We need as much computing power as we can possibly get. And I think the whole industry right now is trying to really adapt to the amount of demand for AI services that we see coming over the next couple of years. And I think that when it comes to the suppliers of this computing power, I think that NVIDIA has something very special. We use them for training, we use them for inference. AMD, I think, also is really sort of delivering in terms of the next generation of chip that they've been working on. We've been providing feedback. We've been doing a lot of software work to be able to enable it for inference within our infrastructure. And we really see the whole ecosystem as being something that's coming together to deliver the amount of inference that will be required to bring AI to everyone at scale.
So remember, folks, okay, you have two parts of this AI story, right? One is training. Now, training has been, NVIDIA is so well positioned for that market specifically, and that's training all these AI models on, what information to give you back and all those sorts of things, right? Getting them up to a high level. But Lisa Su, and I've talked about this countless times over the past 6 to 9 months, Lisa Su has talked about what? She says the inference market is going to end up being far larger than the training market. I believe Jensen said the same thing as well, right? Which is the models are already trained, and now we actually got to get to work, right? And so when it comes to inference, AMD looks like it's positioned phenomenal for that market, and that's the far bigger long-term market. That's the beautiful thing. The training market's been great, right? And the training market will always be an important market, right? But the inference market is the big dog, according to Lisa Su, and I believe Jensen said the same exact thing, right? And that's the one that AMD is so well positioned for. So you got to keep in mind, like, this is many, many years of scale up, specifically for AMD.
And why the warrant deal? Was it not enough to just have a terrific partnership?
Yeah, maybe, Jim, let me make a comment on that. First of all, I think we have to get really on this big picture of, Sam and Greg need more AI compute, and, our job is to deliver that. The thought process around the warrants is, it's actually hard to build these, huge gigawatt deployments in data centers. And we wanted to make sure that this is a long-term deal. So it is really an opportunity for us to align AMD and OpenAI together over the long term. And the idea is, as OpenAI deploys compute, that's a huge benefit to AMD in terms of the amount of revenue that we get from that. Every gigawatt of compute is significant double-digit billions of revenue to us. And as part of that, we have to work really closely together to make sure those deployments are super successful. And as we do that, OpenAI gets to benefit, from some of the success of our work together. So it really is, the best in terms of tying performance to each other. And, I want OpenAI to be extraordinarily successful. And, this gives OpenAI a reason to want us to be successful as well.
Yeah, it's a genius deal. And my other thing is, who's to say, right? Who's to say this is only big tech company AMD structure a deal like this? Who's to say they don't structure a deal like this with Meta or with Google or with Tesla or something like that? Like, that's possible, right? Maybe they don't, and that's fine as well. But like, maybe they structure some other deals with some other folks, right? Because Meta's like, dang, we want to buy massive amounts of AMD chips, but we'd like some financial upside for that. Imagine Meta makes a similar investment, my biggest investment into my second biggest investment in the public account. That would be hilarious. And then those companies are just so incentivized to continue to buy up as much AMD compute as possible for the next many years. Now, additionally, she talks about this is a multi-year, long-term relationship, which is very important for the stock price of AMD. when it comes to semiconductor stocks, people always worry about, okay, when's this end of the cycle coming? Is it coming soon? Something like that, right? When you're doing a multi-year structured deal, that takes a lot of the risk out of it in regards to a company like this spending aggressively for years to go in the future, not just being like, oh, 2026 revenues are going to be great, but maybe 2027. No. Like AMD is going to be a growth engine for this entire rest of this decade, all the way into the 2030s.
Lisa, can you talk a bit about how the dynamic, the element of the ownership in AMD came about, and how you see that playing out?
Well, this is like a new world. When you talk about the type of scale that we're trying to build, the capital intensity of what you need to do, and frankly, the long-term partnership that you need for this type of stuff to be successful. And as Greg said, we've been working with OpenAI for some time. They've given us really good feedback, and frankly, they have some of the best engineers in the world, and they actually, give us a lot of feedback on what we can do better. And so our roadmap today is really exciting. Today we are shipping the MI350, which has great adoption, but we're even more excited about our next generation, MI450. And this was an opportunity for us to go big together and ensure that the companies are completely aligned as we go forward over the next few years. And the beauty of this is it's all performance related, right? We have to perform and build great chips, which we're confident of. OpenAI has to have all the best models out there to consume all this compute. And together we're going to optimize and ensure that the roadmap is really strong going forward.
And I think on the call you did say it would be highly accretive to both revenue and earnings.
That's right. This is a great opportunity for us to really, turbocharge our AI footprint. It is significantly accretive to AMD shareholders on day one. And as OpenAI deploys more, we continue to have accretion in terms of revenue growth as well as earnings. And most importantly, we get a long-term partner to address all of this AI compute that the world needs.
I wonder if it's going to be accretive to earnings. Just slightly, okay? Alrighty, next year, let's get more into this debate on AI, bubble, these sorts of
this
subjects.
Monday, Nasdaq's the winner. No surprise, because obviously what's happening in the tech and the chip space today, more specifically, so stocks record high, Bitcoin record high, gold record high. Joe Yardeni raises his price target back to 7,000. He'll be with us on Closing Bell today, so you can hear directly from him. He says the odds of another melt-up are at 30%, up from 25. He reduced his base case for a sustainable bull market, i.e. without a correction, to 50 from 55. So in other words, he's just more bullish. He's more bullish.
Hold on just a second. I was looking at the market here today, right? S&P 500 up 0.3%. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, just in regards to the market in general, I think the market actually looks really weak on a day like today. Seeing the S&P 500 only up 0.3%, you got to understand the only reason the market's up today is because of AMD. AMD, because the move is so outlandish here today, it's pushing up all the AI trade. It's pushing up all the, chip stocks, right? Everything in those are just all obviously massive market caps. If it was not for this AMD move here today, I think the market would be red today. I think it'd be a really weak day in the market. But when you got, arguably one of the most important stocks in the entire stock market, like AMD, up 25+%, it's going to push up everything. It's going to push up MU. It's going to push up NVIDIA. It's going to push up, the other semiconductor stocks, going to push up the whole AI trade, right? All the risk-on stocks like the Teslas and the Palantirs, they're going to move up on a day like that. It's just a huge, bullish momentum that happens. But to see the SP only up 0.3% today, and I think the Dow's red, that smells like it's actually a weak market. It's just we got one company that's putting up a freakish day, and it's helping the whole market here today. So just something to keep in mind there. Don't say this isn't a 2018 quite yet.
More bullish, and we're continuing to see the rally broaden out. Most recently, you have the Russell, which has broken out from a double top that it was traced out from 2021.
Yeah, but let's be clear. The Russell's moving up today because it's a massive risk-on day. One of the most important stocks in the whole stock market is up 25%. It's pushing up all the AI stocks, all the risk-on stocks. So the Russell's going up today mainly because of this one stock just put huge euphoria in the market, today.
2024, so now that's participating as well. I've said the calendar is the enemy for those that are bearish, because in fact you are going to see portfolio managers begin to chase. We're going to talk a little bit more about what Paul Tudor Jones said on the network today, but he summarized something that
could be. And where are you going to chase? If you're a fund manager, what stocks are you going to chase in this market, right? I'll tell you exactly who you're going to chase. You're going to chase AMD. It's got, like, you're looking at AMD and you're like, oh my gosh, this stock's going to have so much bullish momentum for the next several years, but specifically over this next 6 to 12 months, as the numbers start to really accelerate and more and more investors start believing in the AMD story and what they got going on there and realizing, oh my gosh, this is actually a phenomenal opportunity, right? So if you're going to chase, like, I feel like fund managers are going to go to something like AMD, right? Big, proven, likely on the way to 250. Hop on now or miss the wave, right? And then we could talk about 300 or 400 being broken in AMD over time. So yeah, if you need to chase to your end, you chase to AMD. That's the bottom line.
I am feeling, and that portfolio managers and financial advisors I speak with are feeling, and that is at the last leg of a bull market, generally that's where you get the strongest price appreciation. So you have to be there.
The so-called blow off top, is that what you're referring to?
You have to participate, but you also have those happy feet. You almost feel as though you're on your front foot, ready to sprint away from the market, and have to be very tactical in doing so. And I think we all kind of collectively feel that way, but we're afraid to make that move ahead of the end of the calendar year, because what's in front of us right now is a little bit unknown in terms of price. Okay. This could extend a lot further than we think.
You're talking as if everybody knows what you're referencing. It's Paul Tudor Jones who was on Squawk Box today, and he was asked about whether there's an AI bubble, similarities, rhymes, etc., to prior periods in history, especially obviously the late 90s. Let's listen to what he had to say, and we can kick it around on the other side.
Feels exactly like 1999. I don't know whether we'll actually replay it exactly, but I think all the ingredients are in place. And certainly from a trading standpoint, you have to position yourself like it's October 99. I don't see why you would do anything but that. And remember, the Nasdaq doubled between the first week of October 99 and March of 2000. So if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably not a chicken, right?
So let me push back against Paul Tudor Jones there, okay? Let's go to the compare feature here on 1000xstocks.com, okay? So who are the companies that are benefiting the most from AI? You know, at least in the short term, right? The companies that are viewed the most. Companies like AMD and NVIDIA obviously come to mind, right? AMD's just barely getting, a little baby newborn in this market that's going to grow massively, right? So you look at it and you're like, oh man, forward P, high 50s, oh boy. Yeah, but they're about to absolutely completely change their whole entire business model on the financial front, revenue, profits, everything like that, right? So 59 is not expensive for AMD given the stage it's at. If they're trading at a 59 forward P 3 years from now or 5 years from now when the cycle's, further along, then we might have a problem with AMD's valuation. But given this, they're just about to get to the show, like this is not a high valuation for AMD right now. 46 for NVIDIA, a little high given the fact that they're already in the show, right? But remember, they're still going to report great growth. Like next year, expected revenue growth of 40%. Yeah, it's a huge deceleration from where they were growing, but still 40% is insanely strong, right? And so if they can grow revenue of 40% again next year, right, a 46 forward P is not high for that stock. Now, Palantir, Tesla, those are different stories. Obviously, those ones trade ridiculously rich, okay? So let's put Tesla and Palantir aside. Now, who are the other companies that are, supposed to be benefiting massively from AI? They're Meta, they're Amazon, right? Companies like Google. So let's go ahead and let's pull up these stocks. So Meta's trading at a forward P of 24 with double-digit revenue growth and double-digit bottom line growth. That's not high. That's low. Ladies and gentlemen, that's low. If you grow in top line, bottom line, double-digit percentage, right? And you're trading at a 24 forward P with one of the best balance sheets in the world, income statements and cash flows, that's low. It's not high. Amazon is at a 32. That's historically low for Amazon on a forward P basis, by the way. And Amazon's growing double-digit top line, double-digit bottom line. That's not high. Now, is it as cheap as Meta? No, right? But that's still cheap. Google McDougal's at a 24 forward P, and they're growing double digits, top line, bottom line. Those are all cheap. They're not expensive, they're cheap. You say, okay, another beneficiary is Microsoft, right? Another company that should be a beneficiary is Salesforce. And then we can say a debatable one is Adobe, right? Some people view Adobe as they're actually going to be a big beneficiary of AI, and they say it's not going to be a big beneficiary of AI, right? But I think they'll be a beneficiary, but we'll see, right? Microsoft trades at a 35 forward P. You're talking about arguably the safest business model in the world, right? Recurring revenue streams, like countless business owners, business people like use their products on a day in, day out basis. Like it's just, a must have for so many people out there. So 35 forward P with double digit top line and bottom line growth for arguably the safest business model in the world. Not high. You can say it's not cheap, sure, but it's not high. CRM, Salesforce, trading at forward P under 30. I think that's very fair for Salesforce, or cheap, depending upon what you think their growth rates are for the future. Adobe trading at forward P of under 20 with double-digit top line and bottom line growth. It's cheap. So, I think stocks like Tesla and Palantir might give a bad rap to the whole AI trade, if we want to call it, right? Because those stocks have appreciated so much, their valuations have gotten kind of so ridiculous that, they got forward P's at 300. So those two stocks, I think, are clouding the whole space. I think they're clouding the whole thing to make these Wall Streeters think like the whole thing's ridiculous. We're all going to come crashing down. The whole market has to crash. The market does not have to crash. Now, are we due for a nice size pullback either here in Q4 or in Q1? Absolutely. We're due for a pullback. But to say this is like, oh, we need to have the Nasdaq go down 80%, like massive crash, or 50%, or no. What do you want, Meta? You want Meta to trade at a forward P of 12? A forward P of 12 with double-digit top line and bottom line growth? Oh yeah, sure, I do too. We all do. That ain't happening. You want Google to trade at a forward P of 11? Go down by 50% or whatever with top line, bottom line growth of double digits? Sure, we all want that. I would love that too. It ain't happening. Would I like AMD to crash 50% and trade at a forward P of 25 when they're at the beginning of this new cycle? Sure, that'd be great. It ain't happening. You had your freak opportunity back in April with the whole tariff drama and all that. That was your one chance to get those stocks at ridiculously cheap prices, right? So to look at the market and be like, this whole thing feels like 1999 and we need to have a massive crash, blah, blah, blah. It's just not looking at the math. You're looking at your feelings. You're looking at your opinion. You're looking at Palantir and Tesla and thinking that's the whole stock market. So it all needs to crash because Palantir and Tesla are trading ridiculous. No! Just because Palantir and Tesla are trading at forward P's of 300 does not mean Meta needs to crash and Google needs to crash and Microsoft needs to crash and Amazon. No, they don't. Would I love Amazon to crash 50% and be able to get Amazon at a forward P of 16? With double-digit top-line, bottom-line growth as far out as the eye can see? Of course. Good luck. Good luck, okay? So, yeah, we're due for a pullback, but to say the market is 1999, we need a massive epic crash, it's just ridiculous. It's not looking at the math. And in the stock market, the thing that's more important than opinions, the thing that's more important than feelings is math. Math matters.
All right, that's Paul Tudor Jones. Always worth a listen anytime he is on this network. The idea is that, you're afraid to miss out, so you keep running with it, but you got to get out quick because eventually it's going to end poorly. The challenge is being able to identify and get out quickly. Even if today it's going to end badly, you still don't want to miss out. As he references, we doubled in the Nasdaq from October 99 until everything ended in not too, late 2000.
Yeah. Let me be crystal clear about this. The best thing, actually, for the AI trade is all this worry about the AI trade. The fact that you got so many people worried and, debating it, I don't know, these stocks might crash, they might crash. This is the best thing because that's what actually keeps the momentum going and keeps these stocks actually priced, reasonable. Outside of, once again, Palantir and Tesla. But the rest of the moves, that's what keeps these stocks actually reasonable and not going to some insane valuations. You can make an argument that AMD today should have been up 40 or 50% and not only 25%.
So
So you're really trying to pick that point in time when FOMO, the fear of missing out, turns into JOMO, the joy of missing out, when the market declines.
Do you think we're in the FOMO period now?
I do.
Have we really entered that yet?
Oh, I think we've been here for a while, but here's the difference between 90.
I don't think we've entered that outside of, once again, Palantir and Tesla. Please put those two stocks aside. Outside of those two, I do not think we're in a FOMO moment for the whole stock market. I just showed you the math. The math says all these stocks are actually undervalued right now, or fairly valued, right? If you're in a FOMO market, all these stocks would be trading at ridiculous forward Ps, right? You'd have Meta trading at a 45 forward P right now, or Google trading at a 45 forward P, or Amazon trading at a 60 or 70 forward P, right? NVIDIA, you would see them trading at a forward P of like 100, right? Given the growth rates they have. And then you say, oh boy, if that slows big time, that forward P of 100 ain't going to last. That would make me say, you know what? Yeah, we're in a FOMO market. But how can I say we're in a FOMO market when we got stocks like Meta and Google trading at forward Ps, in the low to mid 20s? I can't say that, right? There's no way.
I think it's going to end the same way, but the reason why this will extend longer than that October to March period that he's referencing is that you can go into business just by hanging a sign out and taking advantage of the internet. And it really didn't take much capital to do that. Here, you actually need capital to play, and you need real engineering talent, which is human capital. So sure, you've got some small companies in the private markets that just aren't going to have any business model ever. But when we're talking about the larger companies in the private markets, they're real assets. So what you're talking about is not sustainability of the business model, but valuation of the business model. So there'll be plenty that go bankrupt and belly up, as I said, but overall, I just don't see the bubble bursting while you still have this major spending cycle.
Well, that's the thing.
CapEx going on.
That's the thing. It's as long as the CapEx music is playing, so to speak, people are going to continue to dance to it. Yeah. And there's no indication at this point that it's going to stop anytime soon. And many notes are talking about the fact that, look, CapEx is good.
Okay, let's take it to the most, sometimes in the stock market, it's best to take it to the most insane situation, okay? Let's say Meta, Google, Amazon, these companies, right? They all stop this crazy CapEx spending, right? They're all like, we're not going to buy nearly as many NVIDIA chips. We're not going to buy nearly as many AMD chips, right? That would suck for AMD and NVIDIA stock. Wouldn't that suck for Meta, Google, Amazon, et cetera, et cetera? No. Then you can say, well, now they're going to take all that extra money. They're going to spend $50 billion on chips, blah, 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 this year, right? And infrastructure for AI-related stuff. And they're not going to spend that now. So what are they going to do with that money? Probably massive share buybacks, which then increases their earnings per share massively because their net income keeps going up. So you bring down the share count a ton, your earnings per share explodes even higher at even a faster clip. That's the worst case scenario. That's completely ridiculous and completely unrealistic. But that's the worst case scenario. If anything, you could say maybe Meta and Google would probably go up in that situation, right? Because then they'd turn into a massive buyer of their own stock. Sometimes playing out the worst case scenario, you realize it's not as scary as it seems.
It's going to remain robust, and then that's still going to be the thing that carries it. Wells Fargo today, don't underestimate the CapEx cycle. Expect it to continue. Eric Sheridan, he's the tech analyst at Goldman Sachs today on the question of a bubble. We see some reasons to reference the late 90s, but don't yet see all the alignment for a market dynamic that would result in a dramatic and negative re-rating. That seems to be the prevailing view. What about you?
That's right, Scott. I think the key word in there is yet. So we have to think about the CapEx announcements that we're getting in terms of the demand growth that we're expecting. And if we look at data centers, for example, today, there's something like 82 gigawatts of data center capacity demand, and that's projected to go to 119 over the next several years. So all the announcements that you're getting are in order for us to get to that build out of data centers. But at some point, we will have built enough data center capacity, and the question is going to be, is the demand is actually there? So to me, one of the key points as we go through this earnings season is I think what investors are going to start questioning again, Scott, which is there are there signs of AI monetization? Do we actually have companies that have killer apps that are generating revenues from those? Do we have tangible savings from infusing AI into companies? And, I think we are seeing some of those signs for some of our portfolio companies, and we certainly focused on that. But I think the market will focus on the larger ecosystem. And I don't know if there are that many signs yet to point out to the monetization. So I do wonder if investors will start to question the trajectory of the AI capex trend near term.
Not until, somebody warns about it or raises some flags about it, in earnings or otherwise. Greg Brockman, OpenAI, he told Carl and Jim earlier, quote, "We need as much computing power as we can get." Lisa Su of AMD, AI compute is needed everywhere. So everybody's talking the same game, that there's just not enough compute. You're not going to need less, you're going to need more, and you have to spend. You'd rather err on the side of spending too much than too little, because that's the environment that you're in. There is these, so-called circular deals, vendor-financed deals, so to speak, that makes people a little bit nervous. But like I said, companies are making it awfully clear. They're saying it publicly, and I'm sure privately, they're just going to spend, and they're going to err on that side for now.
Scott, we're relying a lot on OpenAI, aren't we, in that spending? And we're relying on OpenAI to spend trillions of dollars. And I think the question becomes, where's this capital coming from? You can make the argument it's coming from venture capital, debt markets, some unique type of financing.
Yeah, they keep raising money. They're at a $500 billion valuation in the private market.
And I've said I think they're headed towards $1 trillion when they ultimately IPO. But this spending that we seem reliant on from OpenAI, obviously it benefits NVIDIA. You asked at the top of the show, what does the deal with AMD mean? Not very much. NVIDIA is down 40 basis points on the day.
It's barely down.
All right. Well, we'll wrap the video up there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, I appreciate you joining me. If you're looking to apply to join my private stock group, private wealth group, that will be the pinned comment down there. Also get access to 1000xstocks.com. Get in there with a lot of serious investors, myself and obviously everybody else, 1,000+ investors in there with over 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures in their portfolios, continue to scale out. We got a phenomenal AMD community. I'm sure the AMD chat's going crazy today. It's got to be a fun one in there. Oh yeah, it's a fun one in regards to AMD chat here today. All right guys, appreciate you joining me. Much love and have a great day.